You ever have one of those moments where you think, well, this is it. This is the day it all blows up? That's pretty much how my showdown with Karen, the HOA president, started. Picture this: I'm making myself a sandwich in the kitchen, minding my own business, when I hear someone fiddling with my front door lock like they're trying to break in. Except this isn't some random burglar, it's Karen standing on my porch with her face all pinched up and her lips pressed so tight you'd think she was holding in a sneeze that could end the world. She's got her so-called master key jamming it into the lock. But surprise Karen, I changed the locks last week, and you can thank your own sneaky self for that. She lets out this sound kind of like a tire losing air and pulls out her phone. What she doesn't know is my son Jake is the 911 dispatcher tonight, 3 weeks into the job. I just stand there behind the door watching this one-woman show. She's waving her arms, making faces, putting on a performance for absolutely no one. I finally open the door and she stumbles back, like I'm the burglar here, screeching into her phone that the intruder is present and dangerous, as if a man in khaki shorts and a sandwich in hand is a threat to the very fabric of Willow Creek. Tammy, my wife, calls down from upstairs, all calm and sweet, and I think that just makes Karen even more dramatic. She's now yelling about a whole gang of us demanding SWAT like she's the star of a low-budget crime drama. You can just imagine Jake on the other end of that call, keeping a straight voice while trying not to laugh quietly, flagging the situation as high priority, probably enjoying the irony that his own dad is the suspect. When the police arrive, the whole circus comes together. Karen on the lawn, fingers shaking the cops, stepping out of their cruisers, lights flashing, and there I am leaning in my doorway as calm as a man can look. The officers are confused. Karen's yelling about break-ins, and then plot twist. Jake shows up in his civilian clothes, gives Karen the look, and explains loud enough for the neighbors to hear that the suspect is his father, and Karen has just used her position to file a false report. For a second, she looks like someone just unplugged her. But here's the thing with people like Karen, the defeat just hardens into something meaner. I saw it in her eyes right there on my lawn that this wasn't over. If you've never met a HOA president with a vendetta, count your blessings. Tammy and I moved to Willow Creek thinking it'd be our little piece of paradise. Neighbors were friendly, the air smelled like cut grass and grill smoke. Even the oddballs like Fred, the retired mailman who lives on conspiracy theories and sweet tea, seemed harmless. But then there was Karen, clipboard in hand at the welcome BBQ, grilling me about mailbox colors and bylaws, while her husband Bob loomed in the background looking like he was auditioning for the role of menacing henchman number 1. The first fine was for our doormat unapproved slogan, $25. Next came the garden gnome. Then the trash cans had to be exactly 3 feet from the curb, not a smidge more or less. It was death by 1,000 tiny cuts. The whole neighborhood just kind of bent to her will because they'd seen what happened to anyone who fought back. The Millers 2 doors down got their car towed and finally moved out after legal fees buried them. Karen always won, or so she thought. I'd installed a camera by my door mostly to catch whoever was stealing my newspaper. And one afternoon I caught Karen letting herself in with her master key, not taking anything, just snooping, testing her power. Tammy's face went white when I showed her the footage. That night I bought the toughest deadbolt I could find and put it on myself. Sure, it was picking a fight, but you gotta draw the line somewhere. You know what I mean. Then just like clockwork, Karen came back, tried her key, and when it didn't work, the whole Master of the Universe routine cracked. The fallout after that 911 incident was oddly peaceful. No more notices, no more patrols. Fred put a party hat on his outlaw gnome. Tammy and I actually started to relax, thinking maybe we'd finally broken her spirit. We were wrong. We just forced her to get smarter. A week later, we get this thick official-looking letter from the HOA's lawyer full of legalese about a new bylaw passed at a midnight emergency meeting. My wife's rose bushes were 3 inches too tall. The fine $10,000 or they'd put a lien on our home. I knew right then this was Karen's revenge dressed up as community standards. I'd been a forensic accountant for 40 years. I know what it looks like when someone's hiding something, and now I knew this was more than just power trips and pettiness. This was about money. I started digging. Pulled public records, tracked down the families forced out like the Millers, found out they'd been fined out of their home, then had to sell at a loss. And the buyer was always this anonymous company, Evergreen Properties, LLC. Only it wasn't anonymous. All the tax bills went straight to Karen and Bob's house, and Bob's surprise had a real estate license. They were running a tidy little racket fine. A family into desperation buy their house on the cheap rinse and repeat. But then the twist, it wasn't just Karen and Bob. The real mastermind was Councilman Frank Miller, a local politician with big development dreams using Karen as his inside woman. The plan: snap up every house along the old access road for pennies, bulldoze the neighborhood, and cash in on a $100 million mall project. All they needed was Mrs. Gable's house, the sweet old widow who'd lived there for 60 years. I knew I couldn't just hand this off to the police and wait a year while the wheels of justice ground slow and cold. Mrs. Gable would be gone by then. So I set a trap. Got Fred to pose as a cash buyer for Mrs. Gable's house. We baited the hook with a low-ball offer, knowing Bob would swoop in with a better deal from Evergreen Properties. Cameras, mics, the works, and sure enough, Bob took the bait, offered a check right there in Mrs. Gable's living room. But then in walks Councilman Miller himself, trying to throw even more cash around, desperate to close the deal and keep his scheme quiet. That's when it all broke open. Miller threatened Mrs. Gable, thinking he could muscle an old lady, and that was my cue. I sent the code word to Jake. Within minutes, cops swarmed the place, caught Bob red-handed with checks and contracts, and arrested Miller in front of everybody. Karen arrived just in time to see her world crumble. Her husband cuffed her protector, outed the whole neighborhood watching. Turns out Bob flipped on everyone to save his own skin. The authorities uncovered the whole scheme, dissolved the HOA, and forced Evergreen Properties to sell all the houses back to the original owners. The Millers came home. The Jacksons got their lives back. The neighborhood threw a block party. Fred wore that ridiculous 70s suit, declared it Liberation Day, and nobody disagreed. The last time I saw Karen, she was loading the last of her things into a beat-up car. No fire left in her eyes, no threats, just empty bitterness. A new family moved into her house, and a new honest HOA sprang up, but I politely declined their invitation to join the board. I'd had my fill of fights. You want to know how far you'll go to defend your home? As far as you have to. Not just for yourself, but for your neighbors too. Because a real neighborhood isn't just a collection of houses, it's a community. And sometimes community means standing up to bullies even if they wear a suit and call themselves president. So what do you think? Was I right to fight back the way I did? Or did I cross a line? Let me know in the comments. Because honestly, every community has a Karen, but not every street has a neighbor willing to push back.